Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Skywatcher What's Up webcast. My name is Kevin Lagore. I'm the product specialist for Skywatcher here in North America. Thank you for joining us. If you're new to the What's Up webcast, we do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here on the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. All these are live, but they are recorded, so if you miss anything or you want to go back and check something out, or maybe you're just watching this after it's been recorded, they're all there and available at any time. So if you are here for the first time, thanks for joining us. If you're here again, thanks for joining us, and thanks for spending your Friday morning right here with us. The Skywatcher What's Up webcast, we talk about everything astronomy to what's up in the nighttime sky, to equipment, to techniques. We have special guests on, usually the last Friday of the month. And then, of course, the first Friday of the month, we talk about what's up in the nighttime sky for that particular month. And it is December. December 2020, the year that we never thought would end, is finally coming to an end. So, a lot of craziness this year, but a lot of really cool astronomical things happened this year. Of course, we had an amazing comet this year. The sun is starting to kick back up. What else is going on? Mars had a beautiful approach this year. And, of course, we have the Great Conjunction that we're going to be talking about that's occurring in a couple weeks. So a lot of cool stuff has happened this year despite a global pandemic. So it's been really good for astronomy with all these cool things. And because everyone's been stuck at home, everyone's buying telescopes too. So it's really been a good year for astronomy in general, for our hobby and really getting people into it. So with that being said, there's some good positives from this year. So with that being said, let's jump into what's visible this month up in the nighttime sky. And let me get my big head out of the way, and we will get started. Of course, if you really enjoy these webcasts and you want to keep up with any of the content that we post, whether it's upcoming webcast videos or we are working on new product informational videos and help videos. We hope to have those sometime in 2021. Any new content will be right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. If you like it, you can go ahead and subscribe. It just keeps you up to date with any new content. If you have any questions or comments about our webcast, you can email us at support@skywatcherusa.com. Just title it What's Up, and we'll be happy to get your ideas for episodes, or if there's something you'd like to know or what have you. Go ahead and just email us there and title it What's Up, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Let's get started. So let's start with the biggest, brightest thing, obviously, that affects the nighttime sky, and that's, of course, the moon. Right now, so let's take a look at the moon for this month. The new moon for December is going to be December 14th. That's going to be the darkest time of the month. So if you're looking to get out to some frigid and dark skies, December 14th is going to be the day to plan that outing around. So we're going to get the nice dark, clear skies that normally come with the winter months. If you don't get dark, clear skies, I'm sorry. Maybe you should move somewhere else. But regardless, that's the date you want to kind of float around. Now, if you're looking for a weekend outing, you're going to want to aim for the 12th and 13th. That's coming up. That will be your new moon weekend, where you can get out and check out some of the beautiful dark skies if you want to make an outing out of that. Now, the full moon for this month is at the very end of the month, December 30th. That is going to be, of course, our full moon. It's going to be December 30th. This is known as the cold moon. Yeah, that seems obvious, right? Unless you're in like Hawaii or the southern hemisphere. But right now, this is all northern hemisphere, since we don't handle southern hemisphere at the moment for Skywatcher USA. Anyway, the cold moon comes from Mohawk Native Americans here in the United States. And they would generally associate this full moon for when the cold weather truly starts to sink in, and that's where it gets its name, the cold moon. Now, if you go around, there's going to be different folklores and stuff like that. The snow moon, usually that's reserved later in the early part of the year, and the winter moon. There's a couple different names that can come across with it, depending on ultimately what you're looking, what culture you're bringing this from. So that is going to be the moon for this month. So again, if you want to get out to some nice dark skies, don't want to have any moon up in the sky for you, you definitely want to shoot for that December 12th and 13th, not this weekend, but next weekend. That'll be your best time to get out, get those long... It's still technically autumn, but we are approaching the winter officially. On December 21st is the transition into the official beginning of winter. But if you want to start taking advantage of those long, dark nights, getting out, not this weekend, but the following weekend, that'll give you some time to really spend a long time getting those images or capturing some views of those particular objects that might be up this time of year. So definitely an advantage in astronomy right now, because the nights are long. You can spend a lot more time out under the stars. Now, planets, if you watched last week's episode, the November night skies, the planets haven't changed a whole lot. We still have five visible planets up currently: Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Mars, and Uranus, in that order. These are all visible in the evening skies, either naked eye for 3 of them, and with a telescope for 2 of them. If you're in really dark skies, you can actually see Uranus naked eye, but all these are visible right as it gets dark. 8 p.m., you're on the cusp of it at that point. Of course, the biggest, brightest planet in the evening right now is going to be Jupiter. That's going to be best visible in really any sized optic. Basic binoculars will show you the Galilean moons. They'll all be lined up in various orientations each night, to cloud bands and all kinds of cool stuff happening up on Jupiter. It's a fun planet to take a look at, but we are losing it pretty quickly. So if you want to take a look at it, you really want to be out with your telescope right at dusk. That's the best time to view the planets before they get so bright that the glare kind of takes over. So if you can actually view while the sky still has some of that blue and blue tint to it, before the stars really come out, that's, I find, the best time to view the planets. And you want to get that with Jupiter right out of the gate, because we are gonna, by the end of the month, it's pretty much gonna be gone. So we're kind of at the very tail end of the season for our brighter planets in our skies. Of course, we have Saturn. Saturn is really a crowd pleaser. And if you have a telescope that maybe you're getting a little early for the holidays, it's an awesome one to check out while it's up. Again, it's right next to Jupiter, so it's going to be pretty low. So you want to make sure that you're out, again, right around dusk, and maybe a couple hours after dusk, and that's pretty much it, because they are going to be in the southwestern sky. Let me actually show you with our program here. If you guys are not familiar, this is Stellarium. This is a free software that you can download. It does all kinds of cool things. You can even do telescope control with it. But here is Jupiter and Saturn. This is for this evening. You can see they are just hanging out there. This is right around... Make this Right, there we go. So 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. this evening. So you've got Jupiter and Saturn hanging out together right there, and we'll get to more about this pairing here in a little bit. You got Jupiter, Saturn hanging out up there. They are going to be low in the horizon, so the seeing is going to be kind of So if you're looking for your sharpest views, it's kind of past, but you can still get some decent views of them. Then, of course, you've got Neptune is actually up here, not far from Mars. It's just not coming out. There it is right here. Well, that's a star, but right in that area is Neptune. Then you've got Mars, and then you've got Uranus trailing Mars right over here. So we'll get to all those here in a second. So those are some of the planets. Real quick, with Saturn looks great in like any size telescope. You can see the rings of Saturn with high power binoculars. It really starts to come alive if you can get about 100 power on a telescope. You can really start to see some of the rings itself. It's really a cool thing to see. If you've just got your first telescope, it's really one of the, other than the moon and Jupiter, it's really one of those, everyone's got a story about the first time they saw the moon or Saturn or maybe Jupiter through a telescope. It really sticks with you, so go out and check that out. If you can get a telescope that's about 3-inch or 80 millimeter or bigger, you can get some of the brighter moons of Saturn. There's quite a bunch of them that are visible in a telescope, especially once you get to that 8-inch aperture, 200 millimeter telescope or bigger. You can start getting some of the collection of moons that are around there. This is setting earlier, though, so towards the end of the month, it'll be pretty much going down around the same time the sun is going down. So if you want to get a view of Jupiter and Saturn, probably in the next 2 weeks is really going to be the last decent time to get good detailed views of the planets, because eventually they're going to set so low that it just is mushy and doesn't look great and stuff like that. So now is the time, the next 2 weeks or so, to really get up and get out and start looking at Jupiter and Saturn before we lose them into the sun. And then they'll, as we move into 2021 in the spring, they'll become morning time objects to go out and see. It's a lot easier to go out in the evening than it is to wake up in the early morning hours, especially when it's cold out. So now's the time to go out and check out those two if you can. Now, of course, following Saturn is the planet Neptune, the furthest planet from the sun. You really need about a 5-inch telescope to see this. Of course, if you don't know, if you've got a go-to telescope, that can make it easier for you to locate where it is in the sky. Neptune's a little bit of a challenge because it's so small. It is so far away that you're going to need, some resolution to resolve it. So higher magnification can be helpful as well to kind of get the disk of the planet to come out. You can get it in a 5-inch telescope, but if you could get something that's like an 8-inch or bigger, then it's really going to start to show that blue shading a lot more. So you get some of the color differentiation. Instead of the stars, you'll actually see, one will look different in the field. So Neptune's pretty much visible until about midnight when it sets. Is a darker, faint blue sphere in the star field there, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's kind of a cool one to see just because it is so far away. If you have friends and family over, then this is a cool one to show just because it's one of those planets that everyone's heard about, but it's not really one of the major planets that typically get shown. It's not like Jupiter or Saturn or Mars or Venus. We're getting out there in the solar system at that point, so it's really kind of a cool one to see. And if you just got your first telescope, it's definitely more of a challenge object that's still in the realm of kind of the advanced, I just got my first telescope, but it's a fun one to really kind of push. Maybe if you got a telescope for the holidays that's coming up, we'll have Neptune for a couple more months in the sky, so this will be a fun one to get if you've got like a nice little telescope you're getting for the holidays. This will be a good target to go out and really kind of stretch its legs on, that you can do from your backyard. It doesn't need dark skies that can help, but you can still do it from a decent backyard. Now, of course, high in the sky, right after sunset, of course, is Mars, the red planet. This has really been the year for it. It's usually, I have it rising in the east after sunset. It is high in the sky after sunset at this point, so it is in a really good position, but it is moving away from us now as the Earth and Mars kind of separate in their orbits. We had our close approach in the fall, early fall. We had that close approach where it was, nice and big and lots of detail, but you really are gonna want to get out and view it right now because it is moving away from us quickly, so the size is shrinking. It's still in a good position. It's in a really good position right now because it's real high in the sky after sunset, so it's convenient. So now would be the time to get out and look because it is getting smaller rapidly, so if you still want to get a good view, now's the time to do it. Jeff Lucas, can you recommend a good Barlow for imaging Neptune? I like the TeleVue PowerMates. The reason I like the PowerMates is because they have like thread-on capability for like T-rings or T-thread. So they make a bunch of good ones there. So I use the PowerMates. I have a 4X PowerMate and a 2.5, but they make a 2, 2.5, 4, 5. Those are the ones I really like. Explore Scientific has some good focal extenders, or what they call them. I haven't played with them personally, but a lot of people have them. So between those two, those are pretty good quality that'll help achieve the image scale of those planets far out like Neptune. Hopefully that answered your question. Mars right now, if I've been messing with it, if you can get up to about 150 to 200 power, you'll start to get some of the nice details on the planet. More aperture, of course, is helpful to resolve finer detail. So if you've got like an 8 or 10 inch, it'll be much more detailed than what you'd see in a smaller refractor. If you've got access to like a big 14 inch, that's what I've been using, is a 14 inch Schmidt-Cassegrain. It really drives that home. You get a lot of the detail, but it is, like I said, it is rapidly moving away from us. So the size of Mars is a lot smaller than it was about a month ago. So we are starting to lose that at this point. So we're at the very tail end of the season to really get a good view of Mars until about 2022 when it comes back again. So get out, take a look at the red planet. If not, just go out and look straight up. It's dazzling. It's, it really stands out amongst those dark late fall skies, cold dark skies. You have that rusty red light just shining back at you. So it's really kind of cool to still go out and take a look at it and show your friends or neighbors. Mars up there. So last one, of course, is Uranus. Uranus is pretty high in the eastern sky just after sunset. It is pretty much overhead as we move into midnight. You can use a 3-inch telescope to see this. It's actually one of my favorite planets to see because it's kind of beyond the typical planets that most people expect to see. Like I said, Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, maybe Venus. Those are the ones that people ask about the most. So Uranus and Neptune being so far out there, they're kind of those, you're starting to walk out into the deeper waters of the solar system at that point. So Uranus is really cool because it really doesn't take much to see it. I've actually seen it naked eye from a dark sky. It's about magnitude 7-ish, so you need really good skies. We saw it from Kitt Peak Observatory in Arizona. But yeah, that is a naked eye visible planet if you can get to a dark enough sky. But in a telescope, even a decent little 3 or 4 inch telescope, it looks like a planet. It's a little, pale blue ball just floating out in space. It's really kind of neat to see it just because it is so far out there. So this is a great one. Again, maybe you're getting a telescope for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever the holiday would be. Maybe you're getting something. This will be a fun one to go out and really, again, stretch your legs of your telescope and give it a go, because it will be well visible into the spring. Probably lose it somewhere in the spring. It sets right now about 4:30 in the morning, so it's pretty much an all-night object at this point. But if you just got a telescope, or you're getting one, maybe you want to go out, check out the conjunction we're gonna talk about right after this. Give Uranus a check, because it looks really neat as that little pale blue ball just floating out in space among the star field. But it actually looks more like a planet that Neptune does, obviously, because it's closer. But it still looks like a little ball, where Neptune takes a lot more work for you to resolve that finer, smaller sphere. All right, so the big deal for this month, and the last thing to really knock out 2020 as far as astronomical events go, is the Great Conjunction, as they're calling it. Right now, you've probably seen, you've gone out in the evening sky, or the evening right now, and looked out to the west. You've seen Jupiter and Saturn continuously getting closer to one another. Right now, they're still fairly far apart. They are near each other. They have been for a couple weeks, or months actually. But over the next 3 weeks, they're going to get very quickly really close to each other. And this is what they're calling the Great Conjunction. So Jupiter and Saturn are inching closer to each other. The real big portion of the conjunction, where they're really close, is going to start December 16th and kind of go through Christmas, December 25th. But the actual close approach for this is December 21st. And they're going to be about 0.1 degree apart. This is an eyepiece simulation right here, just to show you. This is using one of our more popular telescope. This is an EvoStar 120 ED 900 millimeter focal length. This is with a 13 millimeter eyepiece, pretty generic eyepiece. You can see how close those two are going to be to each other. So even if you've got like a C11 or one of these longer focal length Schmidt-Cassegrains, grains, they're both going to fit in the field of view. That's how close they're going to be. It's crazy how close they are going to be to one another. They haven't been this close to each other since about 1623. And they were quite close to each other at that point. And honestly, the next time, I have to look when it's going to be. This happens every 20 years. This conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn is every 20 years, but the positioning isn't always great with them relative to the sun, because they are getting closer to the sun. So this year, it's really well placed for us to actually see it in comparison to some previous years. But on top of that, they're also going to be really, really close to each other on the solstice, December 21st. So it's going to be kind of a big thing to go check out at that point. The last time they were as close as this would be March 4th of 1226. So it's been a while. And they were pretty close at that point as well. So this is really going to be something you want to go out and see. Even if you just go check it out, they're almost going to look like one point. Actually, they'll probably look like one point practically there in the western sky to the naked eye. With a telescope, you're going to be able to break those up a little bit more and make that easy to see. But definitely want to get out and check this out. Again, a conjunction like this only happens every 20 years, so it's rare on its own. But this one, we have an extremely close pairing, which is exceptionally rare. So this is like a once-in-a-lifetime this close. So we're lucky to be able to see him at this position. If you're a planetary imager, be ready for this. use one of those high-speed cameras, it is going to be low, so the details aren't going to be great, but you should be able to at least see the rings and the moons and all that in one field of view. It's going to be really cool to see that real quick. So let me just bring this up real quick. There we go. Oh wait, no, it's the east. Sorry. The west is over here. There we go. Let me see if I can change this up real quick and bring the planets back up. Okay, so again, if you want to know what this is Stellarium. You can get it for free online. Okay, so there we go. There's Jupiter and Saturn right there. And let me just show you how this is going to work as we go through the next couple weeks. You can see there's going to be a real cool pairing with the moon and these two. There's a photo op right there. This is on December 16th. And then, of course, on the 17th, it'll be a little bit further, but still kind of a cool shot. If you want to try and get it with wide field lens, you're going to have that crescent moon and the planets there. You can get some cool Earth shine. So on the 17th, you're going to have kind of a cool option to get there as well. The 16th is going to be the best crescent and conjunction photo op. But the 17th, you've still got a good option there with a little bit brighter illuminated crescent on the 17th. But again, let me, here we go. As this progresses further, you're going to see, once we get to about the 20th, they're almost going to appear practically as one point to the naked eye. And then, of course, on the 21st, they're going to look like one star, and you're going to need a telescope to really split those apart. It's going to be really kind of a cool thing to see. And this is almost 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's at an altitude of 19 degrees. So it'll still be high enough to basically see from a fairly clear backyard, but it's going to be low. So if you have a good vantage point to the west, it's going to be a better chance for you to get out and check that out. You know, like if you've got the beach in California, no western horizon problems, something like that, you're going to be able to catch it a lot more. And then, of course, the 22nd. So it's going to probably appear as a single star naked eye from probably roughly the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, possibly the 23rd, and Christmas Eve, you'll probably see where they split a little bit more. But you've got, they're going to be very close to each other for several days. So there's a photo op for a couple different days there to check out to see it. And then, of course, if you're getting a telescope for Christmas and you're lucky for that, go out and check it out. They're going to be really close to each other. The main conjunction had already passed, but they're still going to be right next to each other. So it'd still be a cool thing to see if you're getting something for the holidays. So that right there is to go out and check it out. But, you know, by about 7 o'clock, they're going to be gone. So you've got about an hour window to really hit it before they really just disappear and set below the horizon. So it's going to be a very limited window. It's going to be a very cool thing to see. But it's definitely worth making sure you get a chance to at least see it. So that's the great conjunction that everybody's talking about. I know I'll be watching it. It's already starting to kind of frame things up. But it should be really cool. So that's going to be the icing on the cake for the 2020 astronomical events at that point. So, all right, moving on. The sun. The sun is actually starting to kick up. If you watched last in October, if you watched, we went over some of the filters and different things that you can do to observe the sun safely. Well, the sun is starting to make itself known once again. It's starting to increase. There's a bunch of active regions on the sun right now. Currently, as of today, you have AR, or active region, 2785, 2786, and 2790. So it's definitely worth checking out. And seeing what's up. If you guys want to see kind of what's going on right now, this is the Gong H Alpha Solar. That is pretty much live from Chile. You can see there's quite a bit of detail. The large active region still is about to go off the sun there. There's some nice prominences, a little bit of filament detail, and then you've got some other active region. So some nice prominences today. So if you have a hydrogen alpha telescope, you should be busting that thing out, because the sun is starting to once again wake up. This was shot. This is the big active region that's going off the sun. This was shot last weekend. I shot in my backyard with my Daystar. This is a 60 millimeter refractor, so you don't need big aperture, but definitely get out. Even if you have a white light filter, go check out the sunspots. But if you have hydrogen alpha filter, it better be on that scope, because there's a lot of cool details to see visually and photographically. Now, last week, AR 2970 was coming around the bend. Did I get that right? I'll have to check that. I'm sorry. I see what I did there. It should be 2790. So disregard that. 2790 active region actually came around the disk of the sun. It released an M4 class flare, which is the biggest flare the sun has produced in 3 years. And it had these coronal loops, which is a very rare prominence, essentially, where it loops up and comes back down. Really fine detail. I've got some friends who did some really cool time lapse with it. But you want to keep track of the sun. Let me get my face out of the way a little bit more so you guys can see. You definitely want to keep track of the sun over the next couple years. We are starting to go back in towards solar maximum. It's just getting started, but it has jump started pretty quickly. So lots of cool features are happening right now. If you've got a hydrogen alpha telescope, definitely worth hauling it out. If you don't have one, now's the time to start thinking about it, because we do here in the US, North America, 2023 is an annular solar eclipse. 2024 is another total eclipse. So as we inch closer to those two dates, especially as we get into 2022, the craving for solar equipment is going to start happening again, just like 2017, and it's going to be progressively harder to get equipment to do it. And this time we're going to have eclipses that are landing during a solar maximum, so there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on. So if you've been interested in the sun and you've been thinking about filters, now in the next year or two is the time to seriously think about that, because as we get towards mid 2022, beginning of 2023, the demand's gonna skyrocket like it did last time. And it gets really difficult to get equipment to observe the sun. So just have that on your radar right now. But it's definitely worth it if you've got some cool solar filters to go out and check it out. Meteor showers. We have 2 meteor showers this month. The first one is the Geminids, which comes out of the constellation of Gemini, obviously. This one actually is quite a good one. You get about 120 meteors per hour, and the cool thing about it is it lands on December 13th and 14th as the peak. That's right at new moon, so really good time to be out looking for meteors. It's a good shower. There's a lot of meteors that happen per hour, and it's in the perfect time of the month to actually go out and look, because it's the darkest part of the month with no moon in the sky. Second one that's coming up is the Perseids. This comes out of the Ursa, I think it's Ursa Major constellation. I'll have to double check it. They're both right next to each other, right around the northern pole. This one isn't as elaborate. I'm talking about 5 to 10 meteors per hour. It's December 21st and 22nd is the peak. There is a brighter moon, because we are getting closer, about 10 days, 10 days away from full moon at the start of this meteor shower. But the moon will set before the best time to view the meteor shower starts. Best time to view a meteor shower is generally after midnight, as the Earth comes around into that position, it's almost like it has to rotate to get to the window for that. So generally meteor showers are best viewed after midnight. So for the Urseids, if you're gonna get out and view those, the moon will have already set. But the Geminids are the bigger of the two. If you're gonna go out for new moon viewing, now's the time. It works out really, really well because you're gonna get a nice meteor shower, new moon, long dark sky. Really good time to check those out. So again, Geminids during new moon and Urseids during after moon set later in the month. So those are the meteor showers for this month. So there's a lot of good stuff that's happening this month. The planets still look good. The moon's still cool to check out. We have the conjunction, which is going to be the pinnacle of all of this. And then you've got one really nice meteor shower and a smaller one to follow up. The cool thing about the Geminids is a lot of those actually are multicolor as they come in to the atmosphere. So there's a lot of cool different colors that you might get from those incoming meteors. So something to check out. Get a wide field lens, take some pictures while you're out there. Deep sky targets. Now, deep sky, of course, does not change nearly as much. As all of you have seen, the constellations take several months to move across the sky. So there's a lot of targets that are up this time of year that we've probably talked about previously. There's a lot that I haven't talked about because we just don't have enough time. But probably the big jewel of right now, high overhead after sunset, is, of course, M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. It's just kind of a staple for the end of fall, early winter. Of course, it's the Andromeda Galaxy, so it's in Andromeda, which you've probably guessed. It's high in the eastern sky, moving overhead. It's in a really good position to photograph right now because of how high it actually sits. You're out of all the seeing junk and the muck that's low in the atmosphere, so really good time to be shooting this. Dark skies, it's visible naked eye. It actually looks really good in a pair of binoculars from a dark sky. You get the extension of the arms and stuff like that. Actually, I've had some of my best views of the Andromeda Galaxy in like a 50 millimeter pair of binoculars. It looks really neat. And then photographically, it's easy to do from the backyard. When the moon is down, there's no filters that really help with it. So you just need a good sky. But it's bright enough, there's enough signal that comes from it that you can take a nice image of it from in town. But if you can get out to dark skies, it really is like, really there at that point. So let me just bring us back to right now. Let's just do the 5th. Saturday night. So let me turn on some of these real quick. There we go. Don't go outside and expect to see the lines. I've actually had people ask, like, where's the lines? Most of you know this. But as you can see, by 8 o'clock, right here is the Andromeda Galaxy. It is straight overhead to see it right now. So really good time to be shooting it right now. Fun fact, I've had this happen a lot lately. There's a lot of people who shoot with Star Adventures, EQ6, HEQ5s, a lot of our mounts, where they're shooting the Andromeda Galaxy and they're finding that some of their shots are pinpoint and some of them are streaked. Where the Andromeda Galaxy passes over is really high overhead when it passes the meridian. It's almost at zenith. So if you have your telescope balanced too well, the gears actually start to float between one another. So because there always has to be a little bit of backlash in a mount for it to work. So you'll get the floating issue of the gears. So if you're shooting Andromeda, especially if you're new and you have like a Star Adventure or something like that, because I've had a lot of people call about this lately, offset the balance of the counterweight just a little bit to where it falls to the side, little side heavy. This keeps the teeth engaged as you're tracking, and you won't have the floating mesh problem. It'll be nice and smooth, and you won't have that issue. So something to keep in mind with a lot of targets that are going to happen this time of year. Andromeda's one of them, being so high in the sky. And then, of course, our next one which is obvious, as the Pleiades cluster passes high overhead too. Make sure you offset your equatorial mount weight just so that keeps the teeth engaged. You get nice smooth tracking when you're shooting high overhead. M45, the Pleiades, another staple of this time of year. It looks like a micro dipper. It's in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. It is really high around 9 o'clock, and it's going to be pretty dominant for pretty much most of the night. I'll actually bring this up real quick. So here's the Pleiades right here. Right over here is the Pleiades. And this is about 8 o'clock at night. It's just rising. In the east, we're at an altitude of about 45, 46 degrees at about 8 o'clock. So if you wanted to actually spend a good amount of time imaging the Pleiades, now's the time to do it, because you could pretty much go all night. At least here in Arizona, our astronomical twilight for the morning, when you have to stop imaging because the sky's going to start brightening up, it's about 5:30 right now. So we can go pretty much all night on the Pleiades. Not quite all night, but you could go almost all night, and it's right there, ending the night at about 15 degrees above the western horizon. You can pretty much shoot the Pleiades all night if you wanted to go for one of those really deep pictures, or you're shooting multiple filters a night. You'll be able to get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You have almost 9 hours of visibility to shoot the Pleiades right now. You could easily pound out a really deep shot of the Pleiades cluster and run it all night. So if you're looking for an all-night target, the Pleiades is a really good one to check out. It's pretty obvious this time of year. Really beautiful cluster in binoculars, small telescopes. If you're getting a small telescope for the holidays, go out, check out the Pleiades. It's one of the easiest clusters to see. You can see it naked eye, looks great in a telescope. Looks like spilt glitter on black tablecloth. And then if you're photographing it, you can get that beautiful blue dust from the Merope Nebula that's in there. So it's a really beautiful thing to check out and mess with, especially if you have a star tracker. If you want something to really try out, try putting a 135, 7200, 200 millimeter or a 135 millimeter lens on your camera and a star tracker. Pop it over to the Pleiades and see what kind of cool images you can get from it. The Pleiades is really a cool cluster, and it's very forgiving and very easy to work with. So the wintertime, it has some of the best objects for beginner imagers to get started. Next up, not far from the Pleiades, but it's in the constellation of Perseus. This one is more challenging, is the California Nebula, which is NGC 1499. It is, like I said, not far from the Pleiades. This one is a challenge visually from light polluted skies. You really want to be out in a dark location to see this. It's actually best seen in wide field telescopes. So if you've got like a short focal length, 4, 5, 6 inch, whatever telescope, that's the best way to see it all. You can use bigger aperture, but you're not going to get the whole nebula. It's actually pretty big. It's pretty much all hydrogen. It's a hydrogen emission region. So visually, you're going to want something like an H-beta filter. A UHC would be great visually. Photographically, though, it's really easy to do from in town, especially if you've got a hydrogen alpha filter. No problem. Takes care of it. No big deal. But it is not far from the Pleiades. So let me bring our sky chart back up. Here's the Pleiades right here. Just to the, what would this be? Just to the north of the Pleiades, you're going to see that faint nebula right here in Perseus. There is the California Nebula right there. If you have a wide enough field, though, you can actually get a really cool picture of the Pleiades and the California Nebula together. And there's all kinds of crazy nebula dust that sits between the two as well. Some really cool stuff can be done, especially if you get out to dark skies. Those two are not far from one another. So that is the California Nebula. This picture right here, this is hydrogen alpha. This was shot from my backyard, which is light polluted. But this is with a 200mm Canon telephoto lens and a monochrome CCD with an H-alpha filter. Very easy target with that kind of combo. Another one that's up right now is the Triangulum Galaxy. This one's very close to Andromeda, M31. It's actually very high in the sky just after sunset, almost at zenith as well. Let's see, here we go. So here's Andromeda right here. Really easy to see. Not far opposite, though, from Merak is M33 right here. So M33 or the Triangulum Galaxy. This one's actually more challenging than most people think it is. It's very diffuse on the outer arms. So getting good structure and stuff like that in an image can be more difficult. Dark skies is really beneficial. You might be able to glimpse the core from like a dark night in your backyard. It's going to be fairly diffuse with like a 10-inch scope. But if you can get out to a dark sky, it becomes very easy. But it's not as structured as the Andromeda Galaxy. It's not as bright. So the outer arms are more diffuse. So you really need good dark skies to see it. But it can be done photographically from in town. In the best of skies, you can catch it as a faint glow naked eye from the darkest skies. It's a real challenge, but if you're going to be out on that new moon weekend next weekend, and it's a really good sky, it's in a really high position, so you might be able to actually glimpse that faint glow from the galaxy. So, kind of a cool one to see. Real quick, I don't have this on my presentation, but I just remembered it. Merak, right here in the Andromeda Galaxy. Merak, I don't really care much about Merak. It's a bright star, it's naked eye visible. What's really cool about Merak, though, is right next to it, this little fuzzball, NGC 404. I like objects that contrast with bright stars. If there's an object right next to a bright star, I think it's kind of cool. But NGC 404 is known as Merak's ghost. If you're in a decent dark sky, 8-inch telescope or bigger, or you want something to image, point your telescope at Merak, and you'll see this faint little fuzz next to it. It might look like a reflection, but it's not. It's a galaxy known as Merak's ghost. They call it the Lost Pearl Galaxy, which is kind of neat. I've never heard that before, but it's kind of a cool object that kind of gets lost with that. So try that one out. NGC 404, Merak's Ghost. It's kind of a fun one just because it's so easy to find because it's right off of a naked eye star. So if you're in the area, give that one a go. Of course, it's wintertime practically, and everyone's on the trademark object of this time of year, the Orion Nebula, M42. Actually, real quick here, just in case you don't know, Orion is this portion, M42. The ball piece right here, this is M43, and then this is the Running Man Nebula next to it. So you actually have 3 nebulas part of this region. This is the most photographed nebula in the nighttime sky because it's easy. If you're getting equipment for the holidays, you're gonna view this nebula. It's easy, it's fun to shoot, it's good to practice with. Pretty much everyone shoots it every year. It's easy to see from light polluted skies and pretty much any optic. It's really impressive in deep, dark skies with big telescopes. And of course, photographically, it's easy. So M42, I would get in trouble if I didn't post that. That's coming up around 8 or 9 o'clock in the eastern sky, with Orion rising east. Here we go. Right there is the Orion Nebula. It's up above the horizon by 8 o'clock. By 9 o'clock, it should be high enough to start viewing. By 10 o'clock, you've got plenty of time to start running your shots on it. So that can also be almost an all-night object at that point as well. So, of course, M42, the Orion Nebula, the trademark winter object. And we'll talk about this in the January one, too, because it's just there. Of course, without Orion, you also have IC 434, the Horsehead Nebula. Horsehead is a lot more challenging than Orion is. It's very easy to photograph this nebula. It doesn't take much effort, but visually, it's a challenge. You really need to be in dark skies to see the Horsehead. The Flame Nebula down here is easy to see, but this region, which is IC 434, and then the Horsehead itself is called B33, Barnard 33, because it's a dark nebula. This area is difficult to see visually. You need about an 8-inch telescope or bigger, and you will need an H-beta filter, unless you're under extremely dark skies. With a large telescope, that H-beta filter is the trick to seeing the Horsehead, because you're basically looking for a black thumbprint on black paper. It's difficult. I've seen it in a 6-inch telescope when it's high overhead in dark skies. It was a challenge, but if you can get more aperture on there, do it. Easy to shoot photographically. H-alpha filter will take care of it. If you're doing color, make sure the moon is down. But it's an easy one photographically, challenge visually. Excellent target for beginner imagers, because it's just one of those trademark things. You got to hit it. I like shooting it every year. It's kind of fun doing it with a camera, because it's all that. UHC filter would work as well, but H-beta is ideal. But this is a mosaic I did a couple years ago. This is the whole region. The entire constellation of Orion is pretty much shrouded in hydrogen clouds. So Orion and the Horsehead are actually linked with a cloud, and then of course you have the Barnard Loop. This is a huge hydrogen loop in the constellation of Orion. You need a really wide field telescope to actually pan through it, because it basically goes from the top of the constellation to the bottom of the constellation. It's big. I've heard of people holding H-beta filters up in extremely dark skies and seeing this. If you have access to one of those image intensifiers, this would be really cool to check out as well. But that is almost the constellation of Orion right there. Here's the Sword of Orion, the 3 stars right here, the Horsehead. This is with a 200mm Canon lens and 5 individual panels stitched. So there's a lot of stuff to see in Orion, the constellation itself, besides just the nebula, the 2 basic nebulas. Now, real quick, then we'll get to the end of it. If you want something that's just a truly oddball, this is Dwingaloo 1, and I guarantee the majority of you have no freaking idea what this thing is. Dwingaloo 1 is not far from the Heart and Soul Nebula. I don't know if let's see if we can even bring this up. Just to show you, I don't know if this will even come up in database here. It did come up. This is Dwingaloo 1. Right up here between Cassiopeia. There's the Heart and the Soul, which we didn't get to talk about this time. Right there, not far from a couple big objects. Dwingaloo 1 is in an area of the nighttime sky that professional astronomers call the Zone of Avoidance. It's a dust lane that's in our Milky Way. It covers there's not a lot of stuff to hunt there, because the dust lanes obscure anything that's hidden behind there. This is a really cool little experiment you can do. You're going to need an infrared pass filter, an IR pass, and you're going to image through it just like a regular imaging filter. The focus is different between visual and IR, so you need to work with that. On the left here, this is a stack visual light using a green imaging filter, and on the right is infrared. You can see how infrared, there's a lot more in there, and this is just with a Starlight Express 694 monochrome camera. You don't need any super ultra infrared camera, just a sensitive astronomical camera and the IR pass filter. But what's cool here, in the visual light you don't see anything, In infrared, there's a face-on spiral galaxy called Dwingaloo 1. There's also Dwingaloo 2, which I don't have a shot of. This is PGC 100,170. It's a face-on barred spiral galaxy that's completely obstructed by the dust lanes in the Milky Way arm. If you were to shoot this area visually, it looks like nothing's there. It just looked like a star field, when in fact, using an infrared pass filter and letting the IR light pass through the dust, you're able to peer through the dust and actually start to see it. It's kind of faint. I could use more exposure time, but you could see it right here. This was done with a 6-inch refractor, our Skywatcher Evo Star 150 ED doublet, from my backyard. But you can see it there, and it was kind of an interesting little thing to try out. So if you're looking for just a weird imaging project, try Dwingaloo 1. That's kind of my super oddball target for the month. So try it out. Astronomic makes IR pass filters. They're usually used for planetary, but you can put them in line to shoot other objects. It's really cool on Orion. All these stars come out. It's really neat on the Crab Nebula. There's a bunch of stuff you can experiment with, but that is near infrared imaging at that point, which is, I wish was more popular. I'm going to try more of that, but that's my oddball target of the month. Well, that's pretty much it. If you guys enjoyed it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keeps you updated with the latest content. If you have any questions, we went a little long. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw those out. I'll try to get to them. But that is our What's Up in the Nighttime Sky for December 2020. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you missed it, it's recorded. You can go back and check that out. Of course, next week we're going to talk about where we're going to go with our webcast in 2021, where Skywatcher may be going in 2021. Just to kind of let you guys know where we're planning to take this, because at the beginning of 2020 we weren't even thinking about the webcast, and of course COVID hit. We were all stuck, so we came up with this webcast. So it's gotten really popular. You've probably seen advertisements in Sky and Telescope and other areas. Go out, and it's getting more popular, so we're going to continue it into 2021. We've got some cool ideas we plan on doing. We're going to talk about that next week as our webcast. And then, of course, the week after, that will be our final webcast of the year. We're going to have director of Skywatcher USA, my boss, Jeff Simon, is going to be our special guest speaker. And we'll talk about Skywatcher, where Skywatcher's going, what we're doing here in the U.S. and Canada, because that's the region we handle, and where we just see that conversation going. That'll be an interesting conversation. And then, of course, the last Friday of the month is Christmas. We're closed, so we won't. There's only 3 episodes for this month, and then of course January we kick it back off again. So that's what we got going this year, or for the rest of the year. Thanks all for joining us today. I appreciate you being here. And if you need anything else, please go ahead and email us at support@skywatcherusa.com. And if there's no questions, I don't really see any questions. Someone was recommending M77. That's another cool target you can go out and take a look at. There's all kinds of targets to view and photograph this time of year. I only did a sprinkling of some of the more popular ones and some oddballs, but get your star map out. Go get Stellarium. Use your phone. Research some targets and go out and discover the autumn and coming winter skies for yourself. So, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. The moon's going away. Go out, use your telescope, check out the planets. And other than that, have a great weekend, and we will see you all next Friday. Take care, everyone. See ya.